Hello there. I want to talk now about influencing customer behavior. And as you listen, think about how these techniques and methods are used on you to influence your buying behavior every single day. Question: why is it that people buy or refuse to buy? Big question for you and I. Why do some people buy quickly and other people take forever to buy or never buy at all? What's the reason? Well, many years of research in motivational psychology have been devoted to uncovering some of the key reasons why people behave the way they do, especially in sales situations. All successful salespeople and all successful sales organizations have found ways to tap into these underlying motivations that cause people to act and react to commercial messages and to salespeople and to proposals. The more you know about how and why people do the things they do, the faster and easier it will be for you to turn prospects into customers and then get the referrals and resales that will make you a top producer in your field. In this session, you will learn some of the most powerful influence strategies and techniques ever discovered in professional selling. So, key question: why do some customers buy faster or slower than others? Now, each customer has deep subconscious needs that need to be satisfied before a purchase decision is made. And buying influences are like triggers that bring about rapid buying decisions. You know, you go through your life and sometimes you'll see a product or service or hear an advertisement or see it on the internet or television and you'll buy it instantly. What just took place? Why didn't you take a long time to think about it and think it over and revisit it? What was the trigger that was pulled that caused you to buy quickly? I'll give you an example. You hear an advertisement on television for a music collection, a collection of songs. And they play songs that were playing when you were in your teenage years. And you instantly associate the songs with boyfriends and girlfriends and romance, and you lunge for the telephone to buy the songs. They connected with you at a deep emotional level instantly before you even had a chance to think about it. Now, the use of various triggers short-circuits the decision-making process. You see, in the decision-making process, the person hears the message and they meet the salesperson and they get more information and they go through a thinking process like a loop, and at the end they make the buying decision. But sometimes what happens is they meet the buying influence or salesperson and buy instantly. Well, what happens? What causes that trigger? And the best salespeople know and use these triggers. Now, the first and most powerful buying influence is called reciprocity. We call it the law of reciprocity, which means we like to pay back when somebody does something for us or to us. We like to repay others when they do something that makes us happy. Because of the law of reciprocity, we want to reciprocate for the kindnesses or favors of others. Now, this is deeply rooted in the human psyche. We want to be even. So if somebody does something nice for us, we want to do something nice back. If somebody hurts us, we want to hurt them back. It's automatic, almost like a switchblade. Now, one form of reciprocity is emotional reciprocity. This says that if you make me feel good, I'll make you feel good. For example, when you listen attentively to people and ask them questions and make them feel important and valuable, they want to make you feel important as well by buying your product and making you happy. Another type of reciprocity is called physical reciprocity. If you do something nice for me, I'll do something nice for you. If you pay for lunch this week, I'll pay for lunch next week. If you do a favor for me, I'll do a favor for you. Because we like to be even. We like to know that we don't owe anybody anything. Now, when you do something for someone else, you put him or her under a sense of obligation. So the key is to always look for ways to do favors or kindnesses for your prospects. For example, I will talk to a prospect, and in the course of the conversation, I will find out that he or she is interested in a particular subject. So the next time I see an article on that subject, I will take it out, photocopy it, and send it to them. Sometimes I'll buy them a book. Sometimes I will send them some information on the website on a subject that they're interested in that I got. So always look for little ways to do kindnesses for your prospects without ever demanding that they buy something or expecting them to buy. Another thing you can do is send thank you cards on every occasion to build goodwill with your prospects. I have a good friend who just simply got into sending thank you cards, and every person he spoke to, he sent a thank you card to. At the end of each day, he would send out 10 or 15 thank you cards. Now, I remember he called me up and asked me if I had seen a particular movie. He was thinking of going to that movie that night with his wife. And I said, yes, it was a good movie, and I recommended it. 2 days later, I got a thank you card. Thank you very much for your advice. We really enjoyed the movie. This guy went on to become one of the highest paid salespeople in his profession. People bought from him and bought again and referred him to others because every time you say thank you to a person, their self-esteem goes up. Whenever you say thank you, it makes them feel happy and they want to pay you back in some way. Now, another buying influence is called commitment and consistency. These are key buying influences and emotional triggers. And let me explain what I mean by commitment and consistency. There is what we call a law of incremental commitment, which applies to all customers in sales activities. What that means is that we don't commit 100% overnight, we commit slowly. We start off and we have no interest at all, but as we get more information and we talk to the salesperson and we learn more about the product, or we try the product and discuss it and think about it, we start to become more and more committed to buying. Now, another part of the law of incremental consistency says that people strive to remain consistent with what they have done and said in the past. So if a person has said, I like quick service, and you say, we give quick service, they try to remain consistent with that, and they're much more likely to buy from you. If they say, I like to get really good value for my money, and you say, this is really good value for your money, they are much more likely to want to buy your product because you show them that buying your product is consistent with what they said. So uncover the prospect's buying strategy if you want to sell your product or service. A good question is to ask him, how do you make a buying decision like this? If you're buying a house or a car or a new computer, how do you go about making this kind of a decision? Well, people have a buying strategy that they follow, like in a comfort zone. Every time they buy something, they go through the process. They gather information, they compare various suppliers, they ask for advice from people around them, and they finally make a buying decision. You cannot get people to make a buying decision different from the way they are comfortable buying something. So find out how they go about making this kind of a purchase and make sure that what you're doing is consistent with their way of buying. Now, another powerful part of influencing people is called social proof. Social proof is one of the most powerful of all buying influences. In fact, people pay millions and billions of dollars to build social proof. And the reason for this is because people are inordinately influenced by other people similar to them who have bought your product or service. People are influenced by people like me. If you say that professional speakers use this overhead projector or this form of iPad and telecommunications device, you say, oh, I want to hear about it. If you're a doctor and they say doctors use this particular service, doctors want to hear about it. So what you want to do is you want to find out who the person is, what their occupation or interests are, and then you want to present your product or service so that it's consistent with other people like them who use it. The customer wants to know the answer to the question, who else do I know and respect who has bought this product? So when you say, all the doctors are buying this, or all the business owners are buying this, or all corporate executives are buying this, or top managers use this, If the person feels that that's what he is, he's much more influenced to buy as well. The customer feels that if other people similar to him have bought the product, it must be okay. That's why when they demonstrate many medical products on television, they'll have a doctor in a smock talking about this product and how more doctors recommend this for pain relief than any other medication. Just seeing a doctor, someone that you respect, talking about recommending this medication raises its credibility and lowers your resistance to making a rapid purchase. Another factor in social proof, people like us, is testimonial letters and lists and photographs that prove to the customer that it's a safe buying decision. Many customers can say, well, I don't want it, I don't need it, I can't use it, I can't afford it. And you can say, well, your best friend just bought one of these last week and he recommended I talk to you. Oh, I'll take it. People will do a 180-degree turn and go from not being interested to buying the product as soon as they hear that someone that they know or like or respect has already bought it. Give you a perfect example. Michael Jordan gets paid millions of dollars each year by Nike to bounce a ball on a basketball court and shoot the ball. He doesn't even speak. The advertisement comes up and it says, just do it. Now, why is that? It's because everybody who likes and admires Michael Jordan sees that advertisement, and because they like Michael Jordan and they want to be like him, they're influenced by him, and they go and they buy the shoes. And they pay $100 and $150 for shoes that cost $5 to make in Indonesia because they got the word Jordan on the shoes. Jordan Light, Jordan Air by Nike. Social proof is very, very powerful. Now, another influence factor in selling is liking. And we've talked about this before. The question is how much the customer likes you is a major influence in any buying transaction. The more I like you, the more likely I am to be influenced by your recommendations. Now, we also know that emotions, positive or negative, distort valuations. What does that mean? It means that if I like you, positive emotion, I see your product as being much better than it is. If I don't like you, again, distorting my valuation, I see your product as being much worse. So we know this, that positive emotions cause your product or service to be seen in a better light. Negative feelings cause the product or service to be seen in a negative light. I'll give you an interesting example. If you have an appointment with a busy prospect and you arrive late and the prospect has a tight schedule, the prospect sees you in a negative light. What does that mean? The prospect will be irritated that you have disrespected his or her time, and whatever products you talk about, they'll be less interested in buying and maybe not interested at all. Salespeople with high self-esteem are much more likable to their customers. The more a salesperson likes themselves and is happy with their work and is positive, the more the customer is open to being influenced by them to buy their product or service. Now, there's a special part of self-esteem, and it's called the friendship factor. The friendship factor is based on time that you spend with the prospect, caring about the prospect, and respecting the prospect when you ask questions and listen. This friendship factor is a key buying influence because we have a tendency to buy from people we like and be neutral toward people that we don't like that much. In fact, we always tend to buy more, if not exclusively, from people we like and who we feel are our friends. We talk about this in relationship selling. We talk about this in the psychology of selling. We talk about this throughout this program. Is the more the person likes you, the more he or she will want to buy from you. But liking is not enough. There has to be more to it. Now, another major influence factor is called authority. Now, authority means that we are strongly influenced by people who are known and respected for their expertise. I'll give you an interesting example. Robert Ringer, the author, wrote a book called on negotiating, and he called it winning through intimidation. And what he did is when he was in real estate and he was meeting with someone to buy or sell a piece of property, he would bring a high-level accountant and a high-level lawyer with him to the meeting, so that there would be 3 people at the meeting against 1 buyer or seller, and this would intimidate the person because of the experts that were there to discuss the purchase or the sale. There's all kinds of things that you can do to build your expertise. When you are perceived to be an expert, people are much more influenced by what you say. Now, buyer behavior is influenced by third-party endorsements in the form of publications and radio and television. Whenever someone who appears to be an expert in a particular field recommends a product or service in some way, people are much more likely to buy it, which is why noted personalities are paid so much money each year to endorse products and services. Now, buying behaviors are also influenced by symbols of success, such as cars and clothes and accessories. I'll give you an example. I worked with a company, and when they hired a new salesperson, they'd screen them carefully. The sales manager would insist that the new salesperson go down to the nearest Cadillac dealership and trade in their car and buy a Cadillac and commit to the payments. So the new salesperson would drive home that night with a brand new Cadillac. And his wife would probably be very upset, but the neighbors would come over and say, "Wow, that's a beautiful car." And he'd say, "Well, yes, it goes with my job. It's part of the job." And from then on, he would see himself as the kind of person who drove a Cadillac. And when he called on customers driving a Cadillac, they saw him as must be a top person in his field, and they were much more influenced by the fact that he drove an expensive car. When you wear expensive clothes and accessories, like a Rolex watch, for example, people see you as being a far more credible authority in your product or service than people who wear poor clothes or wear cheap watches or use cheap pens. Now, another influence factor is called the relative scarcity of a product or service. This has a powerful influence on the customer's decision to take action. You see, scarcity implies value or desirability. You'll see in many advertisements they'll say only 19 units left, and then we're sold out for the rest of the season. When you go to a store and you look at a product or service, they say this is very popular, it's almost sold out, and we won't be able to get any more. I'll give you an interesting example. I decided eventually to buy a new Lexus. So I went to the Lexus dealership, and I thought, well, I got good credits and I have enough money to either buy it for cash or make a down payment. So I went and I looked at the car and I said, this is the car that I want, and I test drove it. And they said, great, we'll put you on the list. I said, what do you mean the list? They say, well, this car is really very much in demand, so we'll have to order it for you from Japan. They will have to make it for you in Japan and ship it here, and it will take 2 months. Do you still want it? I said, well, of course, because if you don't sign up, it'll take 3 months. And the cars were so popular that people were willing to buy the cars 2 and 3 months before they received them because they were so scarce. The most popular restaurants, by the way, are always sold out because why? Because they're always sold out. People know that it's very hard to get a table in that restaurant, so it must be a really good restaurant. Scarcity increases the urgency to make a buying decision. When you call the restaurant and you say, well, I'm thinking of coming there for dinner, they say we have 1 table for 2 at 7:45. Other than that, the first table that will be available will be 10 o'clock. I'll take it. The very fact that it's scarce causes people to react quickly. So always suggest or imply that the quantity of your product or service is limited. If people think you have an unlimited quantity of product or service at the same price, there's no urgency for them to take action. If possible, point out that your product will only be available at this price for a short time, after which the price will go up. Many companies will say that the prices are going up on the first of the month. This is the last time you'll ever be able to get it at this price. And it often causes a feeding frenzy. People rush to buy the product before it goes up. Now, another influential principle is called the contrast principle. and it has a lot of influence in making a buying decision. The contrast principle says that people contrast or compare the prices of items against other items, and then they make their decision. So therefore, if you are presenting more than one item, you always present the higher priced item first, then the lower priced item. Why is this? Because mentally, the second item presented seems to be much more or less expensive by contrast. So therefore, if you show a lower priced item and then a more expensive item, the more expensive item seems to be much more expensive. But if you show a higher priced item and then a lower priced item, the lower priced item seems to be much less expensive and therefore more desirable. Rule: always show the highest priced item first and then the lower price. Now, these buying influences are used in every successful sales effort, even when you go to the supermarket. For example, imagine going to the supermarket and as you're shopping, somebody gives you a sample of a product to taste. And you taste it and you eat the sample and you enjoy it. This automatically triggers within you a desire to reciprocate and a feeling of obligation. When you eat the sample, you begin the process of incremental commitment toward buying the product. Then you see others around you tasting or buying the product. This triggers the influence of social proof. Others are trying the product, others like the product. It must be good. The person offering the product is pleasant and friendly. This triggers the emotion of liking or the friendship factor. You say, well, this is a nice person, so therefore the product must be nice, and other people like it, and I did enjoy it when I tasted it, so I kind of owe them something. I should do something to pay them back. The product is often offered in a store that you patronize. This lends the product the authority and prestige of that store, which is necessary to get you to buy it. If there's a special offer on the product at this price, this triggers the buying influence of scarcity. If you don't buy it now, you'll have to pay a higher price later. You contrast and compare this product with other products and you conclude that it's a good deal. So the very act of offering you a sample in a supermarket triggers a whole series of factors that cause you to buy a big bottle or a big container of the product, and 1 minute before you didn't even know that it existed. Now, a powerful word in the buying conversation in any language is the word because. Any reason that you give following the word because seems to be logical and persuasive. For example, you can say, you will like this because, and people will actually believe what you say even more because you use the word because. Another word you can use is recommend. This is very persuasive in the sales conversation. Instead of asking people to buy, you make recommendations. You say, well, what I would recommend for you would be this, or based on what you've told me, I would recommend that you get this or that. People are much more open to buying a product or service when it's the result of a recommendation than if you use a different method of closing. Now, the rule is that small changes in the way you present ideas and information can have extraordinary effects on the way your customers react to your product or service. You must be continually looking for better ways to present your product or service offerings using the buying influences and decision triggers that have been discovered over the years. You'll soon be able to take a negative prospect and turn him or her into a customer with a few simple questions, statements, and actions. Now, here are some questions that you can ask and answer to apply these ideas to your sales activities. Question number 1. What are 3 subconscious needs that must be satisfied before a customer can make a buying decision? Question number 2. What 3 things could you do to trigger a feeling of reciprocity and obligation in your potential customer? Number 3, what 3 things happen in the customer's mind when you do something nice for him or her? Number 4, give 3 ways that you can use the power of social proof to accelerate a buying decision. Number 5, what 3 things can you do in a customer meeting to get the prospect to like and trust you more? Question 6, what 3 things can you say to a customer to trigger the buying influence of scarcity? In question 7, give 3 examples of how the buying influences of reciprocity, incremental commitment, or scarcity are used to advertise and sell products in your city. And what one action are you going to take immediately to improve your sales as the result of what you have learned in this session?